Jordan Poole by the Warriors?
Maybe the worst pick in the draft so far.
There we go.
Breaking ankles, and no defender wants to do that.
Oh, it's a mean in and out. And Clarkson could not handle. Look at his face.
Thank you. The physical is the easiest part. Learning to deal with the mental and emotional is tougher than the physical. That's where the real challenge lies. It's figuring that side out because it is mentally and emotionally draining.
What's up? My first love, oh baby, who and only you. She was my first love. She gave me my identity. But she also took it away. Because that's sort of what happens when you fall in love that deeply, right? Like when you fall in love so deeply, it's easy to give your all to her, and she makes you feel worthwhile. She makes you feel like somebody. She makes you feel like you can do anything. She gives you all the confidence in the world. She makes you believe anything is possible, because with her, all things are possible. She motivated me to work out, to outwork people, to believe that I was always the best in the room. I even came up with this analogy. I came up with this analogy based on her and how she made me feel and how I could incorporate it into my everyday life. It helped me every time I felt depressed. As a teenager, I came up with this. And so it helped me come to my senses each and every time. It made me feel like I could bounce to newer heights. So it goes like this. Every time I felt that life handed me a new low, that I fell to a new low, I always knew that, like her, when I hit the bottom, I would bounce to a newer height. Her name is Spalding.
Who's Spalding?
She was my first love. I had dreams of her all the time. Some may call it hoop dreams. At a certain point in my life, I had to let it go. Some people can't. Some people can't let it go. I had to let her go. And it felt like another love TKO. But like Rocky said, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's about how many times you get back up. So anytime you feel like you're at a low, because it's inevitable in life. We have ebbs and flows, right? Peaks and valleys. Anytime you feel low, understand to just be like a basketball. Because no matter what, a ball is going to bounce back up once it hits that surface, right? I mean, unless you roll it, but that's neither here nor there. So, but what I'm saying is, if I'm standing here and I bounce the ball, right? What's going to happen? It's going to bounce back up. And the higher I go, because in life, all about ascension, right? So you're always going to feel like you're at a new height. But then you're always going to feel like you're at a new low. Because sometimes the higher the highs, the lower the lows. That's why it's important to stay even keel, right? Balance. But higher highs, lower the lows. The higher you are, the further you'll fall, right? But being a basketball, if you took a ball to the top of that building and dropped it, the higher it'll bounce, right? It's not going to bounce to the same height as when you're just standing on the ground. So be a basketball. Understand that when you fall, inevitably you're going to bounce back up. Be a basketball. And that may sound cliche or corny or whatever, but you can use it free of charge and put it in your pocket. It worked for me for a long time, even as an adult. Just remembering that. Because, ball was life. Notice I said ball was life. But don't get it twisted. I still snatch some ankles out there on the court. Don't get it twisted. I still give you buckets. Identity, right? Knowing who you are. Getting to the point where you can say comfortably, I know who I am. I know who I am. And I know for a lot of people that's hard to say. That's a hard realization to come to, like, because life is a journey, but words are powerful. And so we have to manifest that. I know who I am. You can't question who you are. That little sliver of doubt could be the difference between you accomplishing your goals and falling just a little bit short. Speak in terms of what we actually want to happen, not what we hope happens or kind of hope happens. We want to speak in terms of what we want to happen. So with that being said, I know who I am. And how did I come to that realization? Meditation. A lot of it comes through meditation. So when you're present, when you understand that you are present, you are in the moment, everything else is fleeting. Everything else around you is fleeting. Emotions are fleeting. People come and go. Situations happen and, nothing is forever. So be balanced, be present. I know who I am. As an athlete, mental health is a big thing. And I encourage parents to get their kids involved in sports. It's bigger than the game. And sports has a way of shaping your mentality. It has a way of creating a very confident person. Your attitude can transcend sports, because once sports are done and over with, you can still take that same mentality of outworking the competition and apply it to wherever you are in life. I know a lot of people that have done that. I've done it myself, although I've had to pivot many times, but I've had to pivot away from being an athlete, like a competitive athlete, as far as, basketball goes. I had to pivot away from it because it was mentally draining. It was mentally draining to the point where I lost my identity in it. And I think a lot of athletes can relate. When you're known for, like, for a long time, I was known for being very good at basketball, right? But that's how people know me. And for me, it's like, okay, so who am I without basketball then? If this is how people accept me and this is how people love me and what they love me for, then who am I? So I try to hold on to it for as long as I could until I realized that that wasn't me. Not completely. Like, there's other aspects of me that I could really embrace and build on. Like entrepreneurship, like my art. Like, art was really my first love, but I replaced it with basketball because basketball is what gave me the most attention and the most love. Because again, it gave me work ethic. It gave me a lot of confidence in myself. It gave me the ideals that I can carry into the business world, into school, to everything, to the military, to everything, leadership qualities. So going back to what Draymond Green said in that documentary, that wonderful documentary, I recommend everybody watch it, especially younger athletes, because there was a time, and he mentions it in the documentary, there was a time, when mental health was kind of taboo. Seeking help for your mental health was taboo. He mentioned in a part where after Metta World Peace, formerly known as Ron Artest, won a championship with the Lakers, he was thanking his therapists and his psychologists and all of those people who helped him with his mental health. And Draymond Green said he was in college at the time and he saw that. And he said admittedly he laughed. He laughed about it. And so that wasn't too long ago where we kind of looked at mental health as sort of a like it's different from our physical health, when in fact they go hand in hand. You have to treat your mental health just as well as your physical health. They go hand in hand. And so I recommend everybody to go check that documentary out. But the other part of it was the video that I saw with the experts talking about how bad of a pick Jordan Poole was. And they do that with a lot of our athletes. They put them on this low plane that they don't deserve to be on. And you can see the inconsistencies in how networks and people talk about these guys. Can you imagine how mentally draining that is to hear that about yourself on it's not like just some random person on the street saying it. This is somebody saying it for millions of people to hear and draw a conclusion on you. And as much as we would like to think that people don't care about what people think about them, just put yourself in those shoes. Think about it in terms of your job or your career. If somebody was to speak that ill of you in your career, about you in your career, or just life period, how would you react? How would you feel about it? You wouldn't just toss it by the wayside. You're gonna feel away. And it's easy to look at, the professional athletes is if they should just be able to take it. And I think a lot of that comes because people pocket watch them so much and they think that money is the cure for emotional distress. Like money, you getting all this money, you shouldn't care about feelings. And that couldn't be furthest from the truth. One of the biggest perpetuators of that nonsense is Stephen A. Smith. He's a pocket watcher extraordinaire. He makes it sound like because these guys are making millions of dollars that they shouldn't have feelings or they shouldn't be actual people. Let's start pocket watching them, the so-called experts. See how their mental health is after that happens. And then tell them because they're making so much money that they shouldn't care about it. They should just ignore it. Believe in yourself. I commend any athlete that is able to tune out the noise. I commend any athlete that's able to take what the naysayers say and make them eat those words. Jordan Poole is one of those guys. I came across a video from the 2019 draft where CBS correspondents, who are horrible at their job, by the way. Like, imagine being that bad at your job. CBS correspondents had this to say about Jordan Poole.
We are having some shockers here. Is he in the crowd?
Jordan Poole.
I don't even think he's at his own table.
No, because he didn't get a
Right, so he's just chilling out in the crowd like everybody else.
Just hanging out in the crowd.
This happens occasionally. You'll have guys because they don't get the invite. They're like, no,
Yeah, I'm still
I want to
going.
be there. I want to be there. I can be there. Jordan Poole as a first-round pick.
John Beeline's happy right now.
He is happy. Golden State as a franchise with their front office has done so many great things over the past half decade and beyond here. I don't see this. I think Jordan Poole has a lot of growing to do with his game. Solid shooter, but undersized. I know that Golden State's going to have issues with not having Clay and then Kevin Durant and all this stuff, if he's going to come back or not. I don't see how Jordan Poole cracks more than 5 or 6 minutes a game on that roster, even with that. Golden State sees something, but to me, Jordan Poole was not a top 50 prospect in this draft.
Yeah, this doesn't make sense to me. I would give it a D grade.
Okay.
Jordan Poole is a fine college basketball player who might turn into a relevant rotation guy in the NBA, but with so many upside guys on the board, if you're Golden State, I'd either want to get somebody with more upside or somebody who I think can help me next season. I'm not sure Jordan Poole's either one of those things.
Avery, what do you make of this pick? Jordan Poole to the Golden State Warriors at 28 overall.
Well, I wouldn't quite give it a D. I would give it a C minus.
That's close to
Close enough. C minus D doesn't matter.
But I just think this is primarily with Klay Thompson's injury in mind. Not that Jordan Poole can replace Klay Thompson. They're just looking at, in their mind, who's the best player available, that when Steph Curry breaks down the defense, he can kick it out to somebody that can shoot. You're going to miss Klay Thompson. Kevin Durant's going to, whether he leaves via free agent or returns and picks up his 1-year option or leaves and goes to the Knicks. you got to have guys that can shoot the ball. And I think they're under the assumption that this kid can come in and make shots for them. They don't need him to be a playmaker. They're just thinking about somebody that when Draymond is breaking the defense down, Steph is moving without the ball, they probably think he can be a guy that can move without the ball. He's not a great pick and roll player when he's on the ball, but he's definitely somebody that can space the floor.
Reed, it's expected that Klay Thompson will sign his max deal, stay with Golden State. We, of course, don't know what Kevin Durant's going to do, have a redshirt season, opt in, take the money, and rehab with Golden State instead of going elsewhere. We don't know in terms of what he's going to do. Klay Thompson probably going to stay with the Golden State Warriors. With that being said, do you like this pick, Jordan Poole, by the Warriors?
Maybe the worst pick in the draft so far.
There we go.
And there's nothing against Jordan Poole. No offense, dude. I think the guy could be a rotation NBA player someday. But if you're going to get a guy who can come in and make shots, you're picking a sophomore. You're picking a guy who's 20 years old and has some growth to do. This is a guy that you likely could have gotten as an undrafted free agent. So this is such an overdraft. Like we talk about that Cam Johnson pick at number 11 being an overdraft. This is much more of an overdraft. There's less at stake here because you're picking in the low 20s. You're not picking in the lottery. But this is an absolutely inexplicable pick by the Warriors.
All right, so just to recap here, Gary says it's a D. Avery says it's a C-, which is essentially a D. And then basically, without saying anything, Reed there, he basically gave it an F. It was the worst pick of the draft. I mean, that's basically what he gave it, right? He said it was the worst pick in the draft. That would be equal to an F, that they failed. The Golden State Warriors haven't failed much in the last 5 years. They did fail this past year in the NBA Finals, but they go with Jordan Poole at 28 overall.
People tried to write us off a couple years ago and say the dynasty was over, and they tried to write me off personally, but if you believe in yourself, to anybody listening, when your back is against the wall and you believe in yourself, anything is possible, so stick to it, no matter what, no matter the noise. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't. As cliche as it sounds, it's a fact.
Off to the races.
Easier. Oh, Jordan Poole. They didn't give Klay the option because he had multiple surgeries. And Jordan Poole, beautiful step through and finish. Phil.
This is how you grow into the game.
Oh, Poole had Clarkson fall down and then hit the three.
Green just figures out a way to make him pay still.
Leeds is always going to be that decision maker. That's kind of the Draymond role. Jordan Poole, how did he make that? Gufflin getting into the front court here. Jordan Poole wing jumper, and he's fouled again. 4 blocks for Draymond Green. They go with his 13 assists. Jordan Poole, exclamation mark, and now he's flexing on your exhibit.
Really, you should be your only competition. So outwork yourself, and anything is possible. In life, when the universe decides to reroute your path, go with the flow. Go with the flow. And by that, I don't mean just haphazardly, allow everything to move you along. I'm talking about go with the flow. Meditate.
Now bring your awareness to your heart in the middle of your chest. And without moving your lips or your tongue, mentally ask the following questions. Who am I?
You have to get to the point where you know who you are. And don't allow anybody else, including yourself, if it's negative, to dictate who you are. Love y'all. Peace.
They're hoping maybe if they continue his pull, a clear path to the basket throws it down. And Taylor Jenkins doesn't like that. Poole